Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Helena.
And I'm Kelly.
And we have the lovely Joe Gregory with us, but I'm not actually going to talk to Joe for a second or two because, of course, we're just going to let everybody go live. So, Joe, you just sit there and look prettier for the moment being, and I will say hi to everybody. Today's Facebook Live is a really, really good one. So we are Speaker Insight. We help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. And what we mean by that is we want to free you up to really live the life that you want to live, making the impact that you want to make out in the world. But it doesn't have to kill you. It doesn't have to burn you out. And it doesn't have to be difficult.
And you can earn money.
No.
Shock horror.
No, shut up. How does that work, right? So, we always start with two things. One, if you are watching this not live, if you are actually doing the hashtag replay, do put a little hashtag replay in the comments. At the moment is not looking at you. How intriguing. Let's try that again. Okay, good. That was just to say who we are, obviously, like it's all modcons here. I'm
sharing it out to the group. So people in the Connection Hub, if you're not part of our Facebook group, the Connection Hub, please join. We're nearly at 5,000 members.
Nearly.
And they're all speakers and authors and coaches, and we will support you by introducing you to lovely publishers like Joe, speaker agents, web designers, whoever you need to build a business is in there.
And on top of that, you just get to have the conversations that you actually want to have with people who don't think you have three heads, because being a speaker, author, or a coach is also about running your business. It's about being an entrepreneur and actually going out and sharing your message, but building the business underneath it. And sometimes that means you really want to ask some questions of people who actually are in the same boat as you. That's what happens inside the Connection Hub, which is really rather good. So hashtag replay and ask all of your questions. So I don't know how many people have joined us live.
Oh, I'm still sharing out.
Okay,
Amy's
good.
Saying good morning. She's over here.
Morning, Amy.
Over the pond again.
Morning, Amy. So in that case, let's do some buzz in your business. Amy, what's the buzz in your business? You know this drill. For those of you who've never done some buzz in your business, and Joe, I'm definitely going to be asking you in a second, the buzz in our business, the things that are exciting and enticing and interesting for us.
One is bloody hot.
It's really hot. We're both melting.
Luckily, Joe's got his fan going. We've just got the
door
door
open. and truly, we would like more breeze. More breeze would be really good. There are going to be people going, Helena, why are you wearing a scarf?
I was thinking,
I know. There's something very comforting about a scarf on the back of my neck.
And Daisy would say it's your style. I don't think you've ever done a Facebook Live without a scarf.
No, I think I did one and it felt really weird. I looked at the back of my anyway. Right,
Joe's
I'm rambling. I know. Right, so is everybody else. So, are you all done with your things?
Good, yeah.
So, the buzz in our business is, last week we ran a fabulous Connect and Create Day. So that is where members of the Connection Hub actually get together in person and have a little coaching session with us. Yeah. Collaborations were made. I think interviews were done. Lots of work got done. Lots of commitments. So we're looking forward. If you came to the Connect and Create Day, are you working on the stuff you committed on? That's really what we want to know.
And we had a surprise person called Dilraj who joined the Connection Hub and said, look, I'm going to come along and experience what you do, and I'm going to film it all for you for free. He was doing LinkedIn headshots for our members. It was just crazy.
It was incredible.
So we'll put the footage up as soon as we get it from him.
We really will. And he's just an awesome human being. So do connect with him. Again, just look up
this one that will be interesting for Joe. Amy's new ebook is being downloaded a lot. She had 2 people complete the course and the book leads them to that. So well done, Amy.
Nice. We love a little bit of that. The other thing is some of you may know that I run vision board workshops. They are Wonder Space and vision board workshops. So they really are about checking in with yourself, connecting with the feeling of what you want, and then actually having the space and time to feel into that and create a vision board that allows you to design your future. If that sounds like something fun, or if that sounds like something weird, but you quite like the sound of it anyway, 8th of August, Kelly's going to put a link in.
I haven't got the link, haven't you? You haven't sent it to me.
You don't think. Honestly.
Put yes in the comments and we'll respond and we'll send you the link.
It's really easy.
Oh,
helpingyoushine.com/vision board.
There you go.
All one word. Nice and easy. So if you want to come, I've still got about 7 spaces left, I think. So it's in a really big, bright, airy room in Islington. So come and play. And Joe, what's the buzz in your business?
Right. So last week we had 3 bestsellers in 5 days. And so this is category bestsellers, but 3 of our authors got that #1 bestseller They can now put it on their speaker profile. Awesome campaigns. It's always down to our authors, what they do.
Amazing.
What categories were they in, Joe?
Yes.
Ah, good question. I'm not 100% sure now. But the last one, I'll just name one of the authors. So Dominic Colenso, his book Impact. He wanted to get to #1 in business communication, and there was a brilliant book, a book I really recommend actually by Shell Rose Charvet, called Words That Change Minds. It's an awesome book, and she's done a new edition. We could not move her off the top. She's just phenomenal, and he did for a few days, you know. And what happens when the bestseller happens? The book rides high then, and we're really about actually the book being in an appropriate category. So he was thrilled, he got it, and he worked his butt off. If you look on my Facebook profile, you'll see loads of his videos that I shared of him.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It's always a good feeling. I always feel just as anxious as if it was my own book when authors do this, because it matters. It really does matter to them.
I actually think that so many of you will have seen the interview with Lucy. And so Lucy and Joe work together at Rethink Press. So just so that you have a little bit of that. So Joe, why don't you say a little bit more about who you are and what you do? That's probably going to allow us to kick this off, and then people get more context.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was it is your book as well as theirs. That's the whole point, and that's what I love about how you and Lucy support people. But tell us more about you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you briefly about me. So I started publishing in 2003. It came off the back of working with coaches and consultants as a marketing consultant. So I was in marketing, working with coaches, management consultants, speakers to help them promote their businesses on a budget. So it was lean marketing was what we did. And I found actually writing a book, publishing, doing that was the thing that was getting the most results. So we self-published the book, me and my co-director at the time. We self-published the book. We didn't have a clue about publishing. We didn't know what we were doing. This was in 2003. Overnight, my business partner who did a lot of the speaking, she was our public speaker, she was the face of our business, she started getting speaking gigs that were actually paid. And better than that, some of them were paid well. And so from that, I'm like, there's something really in this book thing. And we just had we had this moment where we said, look, we could actually just focus on this. We really enjoyed doing it. We sold loads of our own book. We did it the hard way. This was before print on demand was really a thing. So we printed 12,000 copies of the book. And I had no idea what that would look like. But when a lorry arrived with a forklift on the back and a pallet, and I said to the driver, is that pallet all for us? He said, no, there were another 3 on the lorry. Yeah, and it was a hot day like this when they arrived, and our lift was out of order. We had offices on the 3rd floor in this office building, and I carried all those boxes up. We filled a room, and then we were like, how the hell are we going to sell them? And we didn't sell them all, actually. That's the truth. We gave loads away, but it was brilliant for our business. And we got rid of them all, you know, we got rid of them. We made a bit of money, we made a bit of profit. And I thought, I really got a taste of this. I thought, like, if we could have 20, 30 other people doing what we've just done, we've got a really viable business. So we changed focus and went into publishing. So that was 2003. In 2009, Lucy came along as commissioning editor in Rethink Press. My business partner at the time had left. She's living in Spain, very happy. She actually still works with us, but on a more freelance basis. Lucy came along as commissioning editor, and this was a traditional publishing business, so there were no fees involved. It was just a straightforward traditional publishing deal, and the business was ticking over. It was doing okay, but Lucy was getting frustrated because I was still making the judgment that traditional publishers have to make, which is, can we make money back from selling the book? Can we actually make money back from book sales revenue? And in some cases, the books are so niche. Even though there's a really good business case, the answer from me, the ultimate answer was like, I don't think we can take that book. And Lucy didn't like that because she's like, there's a really strong case for them having the book. And she said, why don't we, you know, work out a way of making it so we can do that? And so she suggested charging so that I wouldn't be out of pocket up front. I said, that's a terrible idea. See what happens. I'll do the stuff behind the scenes because I understood the publishing bit. You front it, nothing to do with me because, you know, I don't want to do this. And she was absolutely right. And the thing that I learned, excuse me, during the process, which is all about being of service. So I was nervous. Charging meant I wasn't being of service in the same way as I had before. I was really against the idea on that basis, but I could see it was worth a try. What we found was when our goal as a traditional publisher was, how can we extract as much money back from selling those books, you know, getting £1 here and £1 there from selling books, to what's the best possible use of that book for our clients. That was when the switch happened. We get better results, we get more bestsellers, we sell more books, surprisingly anyway. But the main thing is it transforms our clients' businesses. It helps them to raise their profile, to stand out, to raise their fees, to get those speaking engagements that they weren't getting before, to open those new doors. So that's what we're about, really. It's books for entrepreneurs that make them look as good as they can in print, you know, and really raise their profile. That's Rethink Press.
Good. And Joe, what I really love, and this is what we love about kind of having you and Lucy in our little black book, is that actually you've done the entrepreneurial journey. You've seen the switches and the changes. You've been able to make those sea changes quickly. Sometimes, as you've just said, like with a, oh, I don't know about this, in that whole, you know, I love the transparency and the honesty around being a small business and actually going, what can we do next, and what can we do that creates the opportunity? And the combination of you and Lucy being able to create this platform for authors to really get their books out there in the world in a much better way than was possible before. It's brilliant.
And I think you guys have really put hybrid publishing on the map.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most people go back 5-10 years, even, you know, not that long ago, traditional publishing was really the only route most people thought of, and they were sending proposals off and getting rejected, as you said, because the niche wasn't big enough for traditional publishers to take on.
Yeah.
But what I love about you as well is what Helena was saying, is that one, you really care about the individual.
Yes.
You know, Lucy does the retreats where you can help, and you write the book.
Yeah.
You do the business book award, so you acknowledge the people that have got, you know, you are literally that holistic service where you take them on the journey, not when their book's published. You're there when it's selling, you're all, you know, the whole complete thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we love it.
And I think the marketer in me, actually, I'm far more interested in what the book's going to do for the business. You know, I'm excited about the book. I love books. You can see I love books.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I get to read them first. That's what got me into this publishing. I get to read these brilliant books first, you know, before they've been published. But actually, the way that book can be used as a tool really excites me for businesses and coaches, and especially expert businesses. It's
nice.
So can I pick your brains, knowing that you've been in this industry for so long in different guises and stuff? Let's talk a little bit about book buying psychology. So we say that what happens when someone goes into WH Smith's is the first thing they see is the cover. That's what they look at. Then they look at the back of the book, and then traditionally they either look at the contents page or they go and look at an example of what size font it is. Yeah. So we get that understanding. But have you got any insight or any advice on what makes a difference? Like, is you know, people are saying, oh, don't use white covers, or now when I go into Smith's, I think people are actually being a lot more daring in the last few years with really garish colors and big when that never used to be the case. So can you give us some advice on?
So there is an element of fashion and trend, but you've defined the ritual. The buying ritual is pretty much the same, but actually what's going on in the brain before that even starts, this is my view, is people, you need to grab their attention. You need to grab the right people. You don't want everybody's attention. You want the right people's attention. And that can either happen with the right word in the title that jumps, you know, psychologically. And you know, I'm not a brain scientist, but how I kind of understand it, it's limbic. It's kind of lizard brain, symbols. The most simple thing is the thing that's going to grab attention. So you'll see a lot of the time with our covers, we just go for typography. If the title has nailed it, we'll get the type right. We'll get the color to grab attention, to grab eyes. But yeah, the trends happen. Like we did white covers before they were cool. Then everybody did white covers. Then we did orange covers when they weren't quite cool. Now every business book is orange.
Basically, you're a trendsetter, right?
Yeah.
Possibly not. I think we're probably we're all picking up on what's going on around us. You know, we're in it. I don't think we necessarily did it, but usually if you can catch those waves, then good. But actually, you know, a solid book, it needs to grab the attention of the right person. So we always talk about your ideal client, your ideal reader. So that's number one. Who is it for? You know, who is it for? What's going to grab their attention where they are now? So if you can get a title that we talk about solutions and problems. If it's a pain-based title, if they want to get clients, you know, if you know clients is a thing, that cover better have clients on it in some way. If we think, you know, there were some books where the swearing book has become a thing, you know, now, and possibly overdone, and it's got to fit the style of the person writing it. And it's got to fit their audience. And if those two things are a fit, I don't mind sweary covers. But if you just do it to jump on a bandwagon and it's not comfortable with you, like I wouldn't want a sweary cover personally. It's not, I swear, but I usually try and do it in private. You know, if you see me lose,
it's not what you're known for. It's not
exactly,
like
yeah, and it's not
where you're like, oh, he's F's and lines everywhere that he possibly
it's
can.
not common, you know. And if I think one of our authors, How to Be Effing Awesome, Dan Meredith, I spent a day with him. We were working out his title and his book cover, and I suggested the title because he was swearing all over the place, and I did a bit of cyber stuff.
Yeah.
And he's gone, yeah, that's a brilliant title. I'm like, look, how are you going to feel about this in 20 years when you might have kids, grandkids looking at it? You know, is it still going to be cool? He's like, I effing love it. That's the title we did, and it resonated perfectly with his audience. He knew his tribe. He knew them so well. So I think number one, know who you're writing it for. Really, really get who it's for, and then think what's going to grab their attention. And I think beyond that, like everything else will take care of itself when you design a cover well. But that first thing, either a hook word or a keyword, or if you haven't got a word, and I often go for iconography rather than photos. Sometimes photos can work, but an image or even a color that grabs them that you know is going to draw their attention can work. So that's often what happens with trends. It's like there'll be a series of books that have done really well with a particular color scheme. So the color will kind of
that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to follow on with that one and say, you know, is it the chicken, is it the egg? Do you start with the title? Do you go for the title first? Like, you know, because actually people kind of get themselves stuck on that. Or, you know, talk us through what are the key stages.
So this is the conversation that usually goes when we're trying to sort out a title with our authors. And now I'll just say, I get the credit for coming up with the titles. It's never me. It's always the author. They say it, and it's almost unconscious. They don't realize they're saying phrases and words that are just tripping off their tongue.
Yeah, that all the time.
All the time.
You just reiterate it back to them. They go, "That's great."
Exactly. Yeah. And they just don't. You can't hear it yourself because you're so close to it. But when you know they're in sync with their ideal reader, the most important thing before you even start putting pen to paper, in my opinion, but it depends where you're at. Let's say you've got the book and you're thinking of the title and cover. Is what's the big promise? What are you offering? What is the big idea? If it's not a promise book, if it's not a solution from here to there journey book, it's more of a you know, an essay or a kind of a know more book, a kind of knowing more book, then what's the premise? What's the big idea? What's the differentiator? I'd start with that. That will help define what content needs to go in the book. Like if you know what promise you've offered, and we've talked about your ideal reader, you know who it's for, you know what you're promising them. By the time, and this is the phrase I use all the time, by the time you've read this book, you will. And it's got to be a be, do, have kind of thing. You know, you'll know more, or you'll be able to do something, or you'll feel better, whatever the thing is. But that's how you frame the promise. You've got to have a really clear promise. Then
so that's a fantastic sentence for everyone in here. So somebody someone somewhere listening, just type that in.
Oh, I'll type it in.
Yeah, okay, good.
So by the time you've read this book, you will ... fill in the blanks.
Because that's a delicious nugget. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what I'd always do, is the promise or the premise. Who's it for? I suppose we've got some P's there, you know, person, promise, premise.
The framework in there, Joe.
Let me think about that. We do love working with Joe and Lucy, partly because they work in the way that we actually work around. You have to have a framework, make it easy for people to actually learn. One of my favorite days ever is actually going to a Joe and Lucy workshop, because they extract the goodness out of people, but they actually help people walk away with the structure as well, which is really cool.
And so, Joe, can you just elaborate a little bit? Say somebody here is thinking of writing the book, so they haven't written the book.
What? Who, me?
What? Us.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So, what would be the ideal stages that you would say, if this was like your ideal scenario? You had your perfect author or pre-author, and you would say that this is the stages to go through. What would that be?
Okay. Well, let's write this down because I'm making this up on the fly, but this is what they're. So the right person.
Yes.
And then there's a promise, but before the promise, like when you're thinking about the book for you, what's the purpose of the book?
For you, for
you personally, you know. Purpose. And then it's a premise or a promise. They're the kind of building blocks to get your book idea set. And you know, this will help with the title, this will help with everything, but it will help with actually organizing the book. But I think knowing what you want it to do for your business. So we do mini books. So like this little mini book, 80 pages. The purpose of this is a lead gen. We want people to consider their publishing options and hopefully favor ours if they're a good fit. That was the purpose.
And it is a really, really, really good little book, by the way. I actually do own this tiny little ebook, and Kelly's going to put a link in just so that you've got that
for you, so that you can,
because you guys do make it very, very easy.
It's all about the pros and cons of publishing, so that you can access that. You said that the link for that's in there, and then I'm going back to the stages.
So we've got our person, we've got our purpose, we've got our premise or promise. What's next, Joe?
So they're the main building blocks. That's what
and this title promise. Like, don't you love the over delivery that we're doing here?
Well, then you've got to deliver it. I suppose then we talked about process. It's what's the process? What journey are you going to take them on?
Nice.
In the book. And so often that comes up in the subtitle. It may be, some of our subtitles may be from here to there. So from pain to pleasure, from, problem to solution. Sure. That can be a really powerful subtitle, just to make it really clear who it's for and what you're doing.
And when they map out that user journey, that obviously helps with chapter structure.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. You're working with clients. Your audience are speakers, experts, coaches, consultants. They all have a proven process. It may not be fully surfaced yet. It may not be as extracted yet, which I imagine you guys do with people. Like, have you got the building blocks?
Yeah.
Can you share it? Is it shareable and memorable and usable? But that process will be innate. It will be there, and that's often a really good starting point for a book if you know what the solution is. But here's the thing: a lot of people try and write a how-to book, and I see this, and it's not usually a very useful book for raising your profile and kind of getting your authority. Where let's say you're like, I'm going to teach you how to do Facebook ads in a book. That's going to go out of date straight away. It's very chunked down detail kind of book. It's a great book, but it's going to have a short shelf life, and it's a technical skill that you can find out in other ways. You can find out on YouTube. What's a more useful book?
It's not the type of book that a reader will want to be at WH Smith's just about to jump on a plane or a train. They're not going to want to read that, are they?
No. So the ones, we did a bit of research this a while ago with Jamie Smart. So I don't know if you know Jamie Smart. Yeah. So I love Jamie, love him to bits. I did my NLP training with Jamie.
Oh, did you?
Then he went and did 3 principles, so I had to follow him into that, didn't I? I don't know what he's got next, but he's got my checkbook.
Hang on a minute. I'm just going to pause you right there. I really hope everyone listening just caught that. When people find their people, they stick with them for the journey.
Yeah. And whatever Jamie's now going to say to Joe to do,
that's right.
Okay,
I'm going to do it, right?
And he's full.
I'm just going to tell Jamie to go into pole dancing next.
I got to lose a bit of weight to get on a pole.
Jamie would actually be quite good at it.
Ears will be burning. So we did this little research project. Jamie asked his audience, he's got a huge audience, what are your favorite books and why? And so the usual suspects came up: The Magic of Thinking Big, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Influence. These books were just the same books we've all done. The Path of Least Resistance, brilliant books. And I was then thinking, because this is how my brain works, it's like, what have they all got in common? What have those books got in common? Nobody was talking about the Dummies Guides. There's nothing wrong with the Dummies Guide, but nobody was saying that's their favorite book of all time. Nobody was saying, that book on Windows that I read in 2008. They're complex, difficult books to write. I'm not knocking the books, but they're not authority building books. And what they've got in common is they're sharing principles. They're sharing psychological principles level stuff that it doesn't matter. Like, if Facebook disappeared tomorrow, those principles
don't age, do they?
Yeah.
No. And so that's what I'd be thinking in terms of what offer can you give that's principles. People like reading about principles.
So one of our P's then, we've got process, but it might actually be principles process.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I would say that chunking up, and you'll have loads of people in your audience that know all about the NLP kind of chunking stuff, but it's kind of getting up to that level of abstraction where it's just the right level, that you don't have to delve into the how-to, you don't have to get bogged down by that. You can write a really well thought through, well researched, well positioned book that positions.
But that's the point, right? With when you look at the purpose of the book, going back to that P, is the purpose is to raise their awareness of a principle that they're not aware of, to then invite them into your world. And just like Jamie with clarity, for example, then you come on and you train with him and you do the detail with him. You don't do the detail in the book.
No.
But you don't leave people incomplete. This is the thing, like, the book should be the most amazing thing people have read. It should blow their mind. They spend 12 or 15 quid on this thing and it's changed their life. That's what you want as an outcome. But it doesn't mean you have to delve into doing the coaching to them.
Yeah,
You
you
can do
still,
that,
it's
you
a
know,
complete thing in itself.
One of the things that we have to hold people back from, and I'm sure you get this as well, is that actually too much is overwhelming and it turns people off, and they'll actually, it almost negatively impacts, maybe not in as severe terms as that, but negatively impacts your profile because you become in the too difficult camp.
Yeah.
It's about leaving that breadcrumb trail that says, hey, here's something delicious, do you want some more?
Yeah, I mean, actually, you've said that, and another piece come to mind, which is positioning the next step. So the whole point of that is, you know, from going back to the purpose, you want it to turn into clients at some point.
Yeah.
If your book's put together in the right way, and the title's right, and it supports you, sometimes just the title is enough. People say, I want to work with that person. But it positions that next logical step for your audience. You know, what do you want them to do with you next? So if it's like, right, I understand the reason why I should do this. I've got an idea of the what am I going to do on the frame? You know, I've got a framework to follow. You give me some how and some examples. It's like, now I need some help. Now I want to work with you.
And that's why I love hybrid publishing, because you allow people to put those next steps in the book.
That's right.
And traditional publishers won't allow external links. They won't allow those types of things in there. So
it can be a bit cagey. Although, I mean, we just used Jamie. I don't want to talk about just one person. Like, I'd like to jump around a bit. In his first book, Clarity, his publisher allowed him to put a big QR code at the end of every chapter. And I'd say, even though you can do that, he got a bit of criticism on Amazon for it being sales, and it wasn't sales. He was just engaging. I think save it to the end. Like, there are other ways of planting seeds about what you've got to offer.
Sure. Naturally,
with stories, you know, in my experience, you know, just a trust builder. In my experience working with X thousand clients since the early 2000s. I found this is something that crops up again and again. Now they're in the reader's mind. It's like, you work with clients, you can help me. You know, you don't have to sell it. You can just serve.
No.
So then, if you look at that's like what you're saying there is he got a bit of criticism for that. Are there any no-nos about your book cover? Are there things that we should actually be advising our viewers not to do on the book covers?
Yeah. So a big one is photos. Photos will date. They'll date really quickly. We do still use them, but they're usually of scenes rather than people.
Right.
Or there's another problem with photos of people particularly, which is diversity and inclusion. It's so hard to capture everybody that this book could be for. As soon as you put somebody in there, you've excluded somebody. And like, ignoring the kind of ethical reasons not to do that, the solid business reason is you don't want to turn people off over the fact they didn't like the look of the model on the cover. So we steer away from that.
Sometimes when you use photos, it can look a bit stocky.
Yeah,
and a little bit cheap.
I'm actually so I did a little cull the other day of my bookshelves because I have so many, and the charity shop did very well out of me. Thank you very much. But you're absolutely right. I found 3 books that I immediately put in there, mainly because they had photos on the cover. One of which was absolutely from the 80s, and I sat and laughed at it for about seconds before I put it away. Seriously, that was exactly it. Like, I didn't even have to look at the date on the inside to tell when this book was written and to go, this information is completely out of date, and actually it just needs to go away.
Actually, it comes back to the classic books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just text. You know, the title does all the work, you know. So I wouldn't, so photos being too literal, like, it's like, this is about, you know, let's say it's a book for women about travel and business, and I want to know it's about travel and business, and that they're going to make loads of money, and then trying to put every single visual into, and I see that a lot. And often, you know, our job is to challenge our authors, because we know what we know about publishing, they know what they know about their business. Sometimes they don't want to hear it when we're saying, look, your idea of, you know, it's just not going to work, you know. And it's not because we, you know, the Photoshop's
you know, I would just trust you. If you said, I don't know, put a kangaroo on our book, I'd probably go, okay.
Yeah, well, I hope you challenge back. Sometimes I'm wrong as well, you know. I don't suggest we've got it always perfect, and some of our covers I'm happier with than others, and sometimes we compromise more because it's a paid for thing that we do, where we normally, you know, if we were the publisher, we'd be like, no, absolutely never, that's not going on there. But sometimes we don't follow our own best advice. So no is, don't be too literal, don't use photos of people. Ideally, try not to use people, because even a silhouette or a kind of a stick figure will.
What about putting your photo on the back of the book?
Yeah.
We always put the photo of the author on the back of the book. This is a business, as far as we're concerned, this is a business tool. And the magic of a book is it's not like a brochure where you go, it doesn't matter how beautifully produced it is. You go, it's a brochure, throw it in the bin if I'm not interested now. With a book, we're conditioned culturally not to throw that thing away. You want your face on people's desks. This is about recognition. Often the reason to write the book is to raise your profile. So maybe one or two of our authors don't have their photo on the back, and it's through choice. And even though we said, go on, do your photo. So I'd always put a photo on the back. Mainstream traditional publishers, they're a bit ambivalent about that. Some will, some won't.
I just knew.
But, yeah.
But it is really, it's a slight kind of, we're allowing the authors a slight bit of marketing that wouldn't necessarily go, you know, there's no benefit for the audience having a bit of the author on the back.
Well, you see, actually, as a person who is very kinesthetically led,
yeah,
I actually feel more connected if I know the face of the person.
Oh, well, that makes sense. So maybe I'll revise what I think about that. Actually, I can use that next time I've got an author saying I don't want my face on there. I'm saying
because
not serving.
Yeah.
Like if I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book,
yeah,
then I always visualize his face. And actually, he surprised me when I first met him. I was like, oh, I didn't expect you to look like that. But you know what I mean?
That is the problem. Like me pre-beard, you know, and I grew the beard, and so all my books, I think this, yeah, we've got our photos on the back of that. I think you can't really see that.
Right.
There's my little pre-beard look.
Like a different person.
Well, what do you know? The beard came from the fact I had my passport photo done, and I said to my wife, "Why do you change this every 10 years? I look exactly the same." And I had a double chin, so I grew the beard. But yeah, like if you were saying, like, yeah, I know what Joe looks like because he's on the back of the book, and then all of a sudden, you know, I've got a beard, you might miss me.
But the thing is, I mean, even tiny changes like that, the fact that someone is there, it means that I'm connecting with that person. I may even have heard their voice, and I'm hearing that as I'm going through. You know,
I think you've made a really great point there. I didn't even consider. Yeah, no, I think there is a benefit for the reader.
Yeah.
But you'll find like mainstream publishers take it or leave it. They're not really bothered.
Yeah. Okay.
So is that some no-nos? One other no-no: if you're going to design your own cover, don't put by before the author name. If you're doing a DIY self-publish, I'm not against people DIY self-publishing, but I see a lot. A graphic designer will do it. They're just not used to book covers, and they'll put by.
Right.
Name, and it just,
I've never seen that.
That's
I've seen it loads of times.
It's like a grade 5 essay.
It's not, and actually, it's a good book. It's a good book, but I'm like, there you go.
Oh wow!
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, you know they've done it themselves, and it's just it's a tell. It might not be a tell consciously, but people will pick up on it because Penguin don't put by on it unless they're being ironic, unless they're being clever. You can do that with some fiction, you know, aimed at children possibly, but just don't do it. That one thing would make me really happy because I see people, they like, I've got this great cover from 99 Designs and it's got by on it. I'm like, oh yeah, take that off.
So okay, so whilst we're on this one then, so how can people increase rather than decrease their perceived credibility?
And before that, Tim, just to give you a little bit more added weight to your opinion, Tim's saying it's like persuading people to put their pick on the about page of their website. A lot of people unconsciously shy away, but it's about seeing you as a human being the audience wants to connect with. So
I love Tim. I love Tim. Tim, I love you. Anyway, Tim and I are having a little love affair across the connection. Stop already.
You're probably right now. We're so much more connected. We need to see faces. Nobody wants to see an egg on social, do they? You don't want to see a logo on Twitter.
Yeah,
you want to see
it's really good.
All
right, so no, it's fine. So I just thought I'd pick your brains around, okay, so if we don't put by, what do we do on the covers to increase our perceived credibility?
Some more psychological things. So number one, model really good books. You know, Penguin are the best on the planet. Like, model the gold standard. What books have they produced? You think that's absolutely brilliant. Like the Sleep book by Penguin is genius. You know, genius, just perfect. So model them, and then you'll see similarities between the books. So I use something which I call the rule of three. It's a design standard. There should be 3 chunks of content. You know, if you've got a praise quote and a visual and a title and a subtitle and an author name, you got 5. I think 5. I've lost count. I'm not good at maths. You got 5 things. So how do you make them 3? You do it by proximity. So title and subtitle, put them together. Now you've got 4 things. Praise quote that you want at the top. Make sure you put it in its own space so it doesn't fight with the visual. put your author name there. Then you've got kind of 3 visual chunks. 3 to 5 is nice, but beyond 5 it gets cluttered, and I see eyes going everywhere. And the best way to do it is just below your eyes, like, look at that. There's 3 chunks.
Right.
3 sections.
And what's really interesting for me is of course, because it is a design thing, is that normally when you're looking at visuals, it's 3 vertically. You're actually doing it 3 horizontally. So it's just a really interesting switch.
So that's a dead basic thing. Make sure the keywords in your title are the things that are big. So I often see, like, it might say how to, you'll get a basic design. Somebody's like, I want it all ranged like that. Like, I'll get another one of our books, because you'll see I'm probably the most austere designer in the world. Like, we just put a title on.
Nice.
But actually the keyword there is your book.
Yeah,
your book
not
right.
How to write is useful, but write, I would have liked it bigger. But it's like, what are the keywords that you want to pop? You know, somebody just sees your book. It's like, I think about doing my book. We've got them.
Yeah, I get that.
Within reason, but some, you know, I could have had how massive and to, or how to bigger than your book. So just think of the size, the relative size of the elements in the text. What's the thing you want to pop out if they've seen it from a distance or on a thumbnail?
And with the tools that we have nowadays, you know, around Canva, and about, this is me doing visualization because I've got a vision board coming up, but you know, I'm looking at that even now and just going, actually, if I created this title and that title, as a kinesthetic person, I would need to actually do that to go, oh, I totally get what you mean now.
No, you do have to build it, play with it, and scribble it down. Like a great thing, when I work with some clients, they need to see a cover of some form in their mind before they can write the book. Like, some people are like that. They need the title and cover sorted. Other people, and sometimes it can set the tone. Like, I'm going to grab another book off the shelf. Sorry.
We're just giving you exercise.
It's like being in Waterstone.
No, it's like, yes, let's have
this one came with a few. You can see, like, I'm really dead basic. It's not clever. Well, it's not clever what I do. It's just doing the right things, and not doing the wrong things. This book just absolutely set the tone for everything that went inside. The title set the tone. If we'd have started with a different title, we'd have ended up with a different book.
Yeah,
right.
So I dribbled all over myself. I got all excited there. So bear with. I just tied my beard. Now, this also, there's another book I wanted to mention to you. I recommend everybody gets this. Whatever they're doing, if you just want social media attention, get this book, The Command to Look, by William Mortensen.
William who?
William
Mortensen. So he was I think a 20th century, 19th century photographer of really vulgar photography. I mean, Google him. But The Command to Look is a weird little book. He went into the psychology of really going right into the limbic system survival. These are the 4 general compositions for grabbing attention. Things will kill you. This is why he chooses these things. So you've got diagonal things, sharp and dangerous, you know, to our ancestors. You've got slithering things likely to bite you or kill you. You've got spiky, sharp things that you could fall on, they likely to kill you, or a big looming shape. So what we did with Dan, and this is taken directly out of this, is he's got a big looming shape. And loads of people said, drop the image of Dan. And I'm like, I don't think we should. And Dan didn't think we should. It would have worked just as well without that. I mean, it's got the thumber, but the looming shape
doesn't stand out. It doesn't make it. And obviously the parental thing. I mean, you know, Coffee with Dan. That's all of his brand.
Well, the parental thing's on a jaunty angle because that gets the edge, that gets the diagonal as well into the composition. So it is worth just studying what's going to grab attention, what's going to work. But the rule of 3 is a really basic one that will make your stuff look a million times better already. Don't put images on there to try and be literal. Leave the image off. If you've got a great title, let the title do its own work.
And on that then, Joe, so the title, we've had copywriters that we've interviewed about how to do great headlines and titles and stuff. What are your top tips to nail that title?
So getting those keywords, what's the top of mind word that you want to jump out of them? It could just be the word book. It could just be a word. It could be clients. Get that keyword into the title, because that's what your audience are looking for. Unconsciously, they're looking for that. When they're skimming, browsing Amazon, they want to see that word. So in the main title, get that in there. I often suggest, think how, you know, when you've got the title, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit, think how would you feel when you're being presented introduced on a stage, your name, the author of, just try it, get that auditory thing. Does it work? Or, are people going to share it? Is it going to trip off the tongue, or is it a tongue twister? Does it fall flat when people actually say it out loud?
And how important is a subtitle? Because looking at the books that you just put there, is it the fact that the hook is in the title, but then the explanation of what the book does for them, as you were saying, what's the outcome, the result? Is that what is the subtitle?
So there are three. These are the three things I'm looking for in the title subtitle combo. Sometimes we cheat by putting a praise quote on the front because we can't get it all in there.
Okay.
So, and the one I'd usually put in the praise quote is the who it's for. So who's it for? Can you get in there something like the ideal guide for coaches or consultants? Can you get that in there, or experts, or whatever the phrase is that defines your audience? So who's it for? What's it going to do for them, and why they should read it? So, or what's it about, and why should they read it? So kind of a promise element. The why they should read it should be, get more clients now, or But the what could be, a proven process to, or the 7-step formula to. That's the what. What are you giving them? So they've got a bit of a sense of, is this a story book? Is this a process book? Is this something that you've been using again and again? But who it's for is often the tricky one. And on the who it's for, if you can give them an ego label, like let's take Daniel Priestley's book, Key Person of Influence. That's an ego label. People define themselves. I'm a key person of influence.
Right. Yeah. So they're self-defining and going, yes, that's for me.
People call themselves change makers.
Yeah.
Well, you put change maker on there, and there's probably a title already out there. You do that. It's like, that's me. That's what I want to be. So it's an aspirational ego label. So I wouldn't rule those out. That can do a who and a why at the same time. It's like you're going to become that. But if there's been a kind of an evolution of Daniel Priestley's first book, Key Person of Influence. It used to be called How to Become a Key Person of Influence. And we dropped the how to. It's just become a key person of influence. Now it's just key person of influence. And then the subtitle of that is the proven 7-step process for being the most highly rewarded in your industry. So that contains all of it. Daniel Priestley's, that book particularly, has got all of the key ingredients. Who's it for? What are they going? What's it giving them? Why should they have it?
That's really good. I mean, for all of you watching, go have a scribble, come back to this and put it in the feed, what you're thinking about.
And just read that book anyway.
I
was reading it oversubscribed when I was away last week.
I must selfishly say I've recommended only my own books. Only books by my authors. There are other great authors.
Well, and I know this came from a fiction author, but I can't remember whether it was Alice Walker or Maya Angelou, but they said, I write the books that I would want to read, and it's that, and I think for experts it's almost we teach best what we need to learn is actually the principle that's sort of already in there, because we've done that learning and then we distill it into a book.
So I'm just going to add something from Tim, because he's given some advice here to some of our viewers. So he said, it's really good for people to go on social media and get feedback on potential titles. So he said, don't just put a list of options and no information about what the book is about, because then people can't give the relevant feedback, right?
Agreed.
Because it short circuits helping instinct, because I can't give meaningful feedback. So we love that, Tim. So when you're, you could follow that whole principle that Joe's just talked about and gone, who's it for? What's the purpose of the book? What's the outcome? All those key stages.
That's it.
And then going, these are the 5 titles. What one do you think works best?
That's right. You have to put context in there. You really do.
You will need context, and that's the whole thing you said about earlier. Like, it's not all covered on the front. The thing is it for me? What am I going to get? If you've nailed those 2 things, what's in it for me? And they're going to go, oh, let me find out a bit more about this. Do I like what it's saying? Is there stuff in here I don't know already?
And just back to, on the book title, is there an average amount of words that a book title is generally?
Oh, well, how to write your book without the first is a mouthful. That's not a great, breaking our own rule, really. But it was the fewest number of words we could do that actually worked.
Right.
So I would say there isn't. Sometimes, we've done a book, called, trying to think what it's called now, Not Authority. Let's take Jamie Smart's book. I didn't publish that one. There we go. I've chosen a different book. Clarity. That was originally called Effortless Evolution. His publisher, brilliant publisher. She's no longer working at Wiley, but when she was there, she pushed to say change the title to Clarity. A one-word title. And the subtitle of that isn't even a properly formed subtitle. I think it's 3 words, but they're the right words. So, there's no right or wrong answer, as long as it, as Tim says, it resonates for your audience. It's worth checking.
So whilst we're on that, then, so I'm still on the book cover, sort of like slapping a good old Amazon bestseller or bestseller on the front of a book,
or like Steve Woody did.
Yeah.
So we've got I think he's self-published.
Hybrid.
I think it. But he basically had the whole little corner thing which said more resources inside. Or click.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So the more stuff inside, I used to do every single book we did, it would be like, get your free stuff inside, and there'd be a call to action at the end. And this goes back to the position in the next step, which is you want to offer something really exciting to get people that have bought your book on Amazon into your world, into a relationship with you. I don't like pipeline and funnel. I stole the phrase from Daniel. I don't know where he got it from, Daniel Priestley, which is a mountain of value. I flip the funnel over, it's a pyramid. It's like, what have you got for them on the way up? It just changes your mentality around the fact that you're trying to sort of some sinister plan to kind of draw these people in. I don't like that. So it's, what have you got for them next? What brilliant value have you got to offer? Like, put that in there. So yeah, I mean, signaling that on the book, like if you've got loads of amazing resources, that's great. It worked really well with a book. This was a pre-rethink book, maybe 2004. The Persuasion Skills Black Book by Rintu Basu. It was an NLP trainer. Beautiful man. He's a really, really nice guy based in Scotland. That book has got one language pattern the whole way through, and he just uses NLP, clever language patterns to drill this pattern. By the time you've read the book, you're a master of this one persuasion skill language pattern.
Really cool.
On the front of that, it's like, get loads of downloads with audio, loads and loads of stuff. That book was by far our bestseller until, more recently, probably up until about 2015, it was probably still our best-selling book. So I'm not against putting a label on that kind of signals as some even cooler stuff in the back of the book. I'd be wary of. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Keep talking.
I'd say I'd be wary of putting Amazon bestseller on there, because like why I shared my news at the beginning. It's great that we get our authors bestsellers, and we do that. It's kind of a game that we play. It's not the same as being a New York Times bestseller or a Sunday Times bestseller, and I don't think it improves book sales in the way that you expect. And actually, the aim of the game isn't to do the bestseller to improve book sales. It's so that you can put on your speaker profile best-selling author and then move on and forget it. Actually, if the book's doing its job, you'll make far more money and get far more reward from the speaking gigs you're going to get, by the opportunities you get, by the interviews you get, by the clients that are attracted to you, by that book that people won't throw away. Like, somebody might go, oh God, this isn't the book for me. It doesn't resonate with me. I'll give it to someone I know will like this. That could be the next client for Dan. Books are magic. You wouldn't throw it in the bin. It's a book. It's really hard to throw a book away.
I really, really struggled with that. In my little clutter clear, the aforementioned book with very 80s shoulder pads, I really sat there and I went, how can I possibly give this to the charity shop? Like, like I truly sat there and just went, oh, the content inside, interestingly enough, is still actually really good and really relevant, but the cover completely and utterly put me off. So yes.
Yeah, that's it really. So the aim of the bestseller is to sell you and your business. It's not to try and sell more books. I don't think it's worked. Like, in my experience, we've done it once or twice when an author has insisted on putting that on there. It hasn't improved book sales.
Right.
Not in our experience. We haven't done like a kind of a scientific kind of counting, but it doesn't seem to make any difference.
Some people make that decision, or I'm going to do a short print run, I'm going to do an Amazon bestseller, and then I'm going to do another edition with that little sticker or thing on there. And actually,
well, I wouldn't. And I think, if you think it's going to have, so the other part of your book is using it and giving it away and gifting it to potential clients or to existing clients. Like, I've got a client now, here you go, have my book. This is how we start the process. If you think it's going to add credibility to put bestseller on it, Amazon bestseller on it, buy some stickers, try it that way. See what they respond. What's their face? If they go, big deal. Don't do it again. If they go, wow, it's an Amazon bestseller, keep doing it.
I totally agree. I'm like, that's genius right there. I'm like, you can go to whateverprint, .com and go and get your own little, whether it is best-selling author or whatever you want to put on there, and just try it out.
Test it.
I totally love that. That's brilliant. Seriously, Joe, we could talk to you all day, and we're at 13.
And I'll go off on so many tangents that you do need to pulled me back to kind of.
Yeah.
Right, you in.
But and honestly, I will really say this: if anyone out there is struggling a little bit, the workshops that Joe and Lucy run are incredible, and like the support that you guys give is just phenomenal. Which is why we love having you in our
world.
family,
Thank you.
which is really good. So we should let you go because actually you've only got about 3 more hours of quiet time before you actually get the children for the holidays.
Hey. No work for me.
That's it. And we're sure that pretty much like a whole bunch of other speakers, authors and coaches out there are going to be doing the same thing, right?
We've put the link to your publishing house and we put the link to your book so people can learn the difference about the traditional hybrid and self-publishing and the pros and cons.
The book is really good.
Yeah, but we know you're in the hub, so we know if people want to connect with you, they can tag you in any post, tag you in.
Thanks for having me as well, because I don't do this a lot really. I'm usually got my head down doing covers.
You should do, because you're a mound of knowledge and we love having you in our world.
Thank you both very much. Lovely to see you both.
Take care.
Enjoy yourself. See everyone next week. Have a great week in the sun.
Wear sunscreen.